Have you ever wondered how mountain families survived when there was no money and little food? Before grocery stores and government assistance, Appalachian families relied on ingenuity and tradition to put food on the table. Let's start with soup beans and cornbread. This wasn't just a meal, it was survival itself for countless Appalachian families. A pound of dried pinto beans could feed a family for days when simmered slowly with a ham hock or piece of fatback. The beans would cook all day on the wood stove, filling the house with their earthy aroma, while the pork rendered its fat and flavor into the pot. Cornbread made in a cast-iron skillet provided the starch, baked with just cornmeal, salt, and water when times were hardest. Families would ladle the soupy beans over crumbled cornbread, creating a complete protein. A dollop of chow-chow relish on the side added brightness and stretched the meal further. During the Depression, this combination appeared on tables almost nightly. Today's slow cooker versions can't quite capture the smoky depth of beans simmered on a wood stove. Leather breeches. Before refrigeration, drying green beans was essential for winter survival. Mountain women would string fresh beans on thread using a needle, hanging them on the porch or near the fireplace to dry. The beans would shrivel and turn leathery, hence the name leather breeches. Come winter, these dried beans were reconstituted in water with a piece of smoked meat, creating a dish with concentrated, almost mushroom-like flavor. The process took weeks of careful drying, and families would string hundreds of pounds each summer. Children helped thread the beans while adults tended gardens. The dried beans could last years if kept dry, providing vegetables when snow covered the ground. Some families added dried corn and tomatoes to create a mixed vegetable base. Modern freeze-drying can't replicate the complex caramelized taste of traditionally dried leather breeches. This preservation method disappeared as canning became common in the 1940s. Killed lettuce. Spring brought the first fresh greens to mountain gardens, and killed lettuce made the most of tender leaves. Leaf lettuce and green onions from the garden were placed in a bowl, then killed, with hot bacon grease poured over top. A splash of apple cider vinegar balanced the richness while wilting the greens. Some families added a sprinkle of sugar to round out the flavors. This dish appeared as soon as lettuce emerged in April, providing crucial vitamins after a winter of preserved foods. The hot dressing cooked the lettuce just enough while preserving some crunch. Wild onions foraged from the woods often substituted for garden onions. Hard-boiled eggs might be added when hens were laying well. The contrast of hot and cold, sweet and sour made this simple salad special. By the 1960s, bottled dressings began replacing this traditional preparation. Today's bagged salads lack the intensity of lettuce picked minutes before eating. Poke salad. Pokeweed grows wild throughout Appalachia, but only those who knew its secrets dared eat it. The young shoots and leaves contained toxins that required careful preparation. First, the greens were boiled in water for 20 minutes, then drained. Fresh water was added, and the process repeated 2 or 3 times until the toxins were removed. Finally, the cooked greens were fried in bacon grease with scrambled eggs. This free food source was crucial during late spring when stored foods ran low, but gardens hadn't produced yet. Older mountain people knew exactly when to harvest. Too early, and there wasn't enough to gather. Too late, and the toxins were too concentrated. The preparation knowledge passed from mother to daughter for generations. One mistake could cause serious illness. By the 1950s, fear of poisoning and availability of store greens ended this practice. Modern foragers rarely attempt poke salad due to its dangers, ramps, and eggs. Every spring, mountain families searched for ramps, wild leeks that grew in shaded hollows. These pungent bulbs provided food when root cellars were empty and gardens bare. Ramps were stronger than any onion, with a garlic-like intensity that lingered for days. Families would dig them carefully, leaving some to regenerate for next year. The whole plant was edible: bulbs, stems, and leaves. Most commonly, ramps were fried with scrambled eggs or potatoes, stretching precious protein. The smell would permeate everything: clothes, hair, even skin. School children were sometimes sent home after eating ramps because the odor disrupted classes. Churches held ramp suppers as fundraisers, knowing the unique flavor drew crowds. Ramps also served as spring tonic, believed to cleanse the blood after winter. Commercial harvesting has now made wild ramps scarce. Today's ramp festivals celebrate this heritage food at prices mountain families would find shocking. Dandelion fritters. What suburbanites spray to kill, Appalachian families gathered to eat. Dandelion blossoms provided free food hiding in plain sight. The yellow flowers were picked in early morning when fully open, stems removed carefully to avoid bitterness. A simple batter of flour, cornmeal, salt, and water or milk coated each bloom. The fritters fried quickly in hot lard or bacon grease until golden and crispy. They tasted surprisingly like mushrooms with a subtle sweetness. Children earned pennies gathering blossoms for the family meal. The greens went into salads while roots were dried for coffee substitute. This practice peaked during the Depression when every calorie counted. Gathering dandelions was often children's first foraging lesson, teaching them that food grew everywhere if you knew where to look. Post-war prosperity and lawn chemicals ended. Widespread dandelion eating. Today's farm-to-table restaurants charge premium prices for what was once desperation food. Beans and greens, collards, turnip, or mustard greens simmered with white beans created a one-pot meal that sustained families through winter. The greens were cleaned thoroughly. Mountain women washed them 7 times to remove grit. A ham bone or piece of salt pork flavored the pot liquor. White beans added substance and protein to stretch the meal. Everything simmered for hours until the greens were silky and the beans creamy. The vitamin-rich pot liquor was drunk like soup or sopped with cornbread. Nothing was wasted. This combination provided complete nutrition when meat was scarce. Families would put the pot on before dawn, letting it cook while they worked. The smell signaled supper throughout the hollow. Some added hot pepper vinegar for tang. Gardens included rows of greens specifically for winter eating. Modern quick-cooking methods can't develop the deep, complex flavors of all-day simmering. Hot water cornbread. When even milk and eggs were luxuries, hot water cornbread filled bellies cheaply. Just cornmeal, salt, and boiling water mixed into a thick mush, then shaped into small cakes. The patties fried in a cast-iron skillet with just enough grease to prevent sticking. The outside developed a crispy crust, while the inside stayed creamy. These were best eaten immediately, burning hot from the skillet. Families made them for breakfast with sorghum syrup or for supper, alongside beans. The technique required practice. Too much water made them fall apart, too little left them dry. Mountain cooks judged readiness by sound, listening for the right sizzle. Some added a pinch of sugar or bacon drippings to the batter for richness. During the Depression, this might be the only bread available for weeks. The simplicity meant even children could make them. Store-bought cornbread mix can't replicate the pure corn flavor of hot water cornbread. Cornbread and milk. When supper was sparse, leftover cornbread became dessert or even breakfast. Day-old cornbread crumbled into a glass of cold sweet milk, or tangy buttermilk created a filling meal. Some families preferred it warm, heating the milk first. Others added a drizzle of sorghum or honey when available. This combination utilized every crumb of precious cornbread while providing calcium and calories. Children often ate this before bed to stave off hunger until morning. The texture was like pudding, but heartier. Buttermilk added probiotics that aided digestion of the heavy cornmeal. Some families poured coffee over cornbread, for an adult version. During lean times, this might be the only meal of the day. The practice continued even in prosperity as comfort food. Families debated the proper ratio of bread to milk. Today's packaged cornbread is too sweet and cake-like for this traditional preparation. Tomato gravy. Late summer brought tomatoes in abundance and mountained. Cooks preserved them in every way possible. Tomato gravy stretched the harvest into a hearty meal. Bacon grease or butter started the roux, with flour stirred in until golden. Fresh or canned tomatoes were added with their juices, salt, pepper, and a pinch of sugar to balance acidity. The mixture thickened while simmering, creating a tangy pink gravy. Poured over hot biscuits, it made a complete breakfast or supper. Some families added crumbled bacon when available. The acidity cut through the richness of the fat. This dish used tomatoes too ripe for canning or those damaged in picking. Nothing that could be eaten was ever wasted. Children gathered windfall tomatoes specifically for gravy making. The recipe varied by family. Some liked it thinner, others thick enough to hold peaks. Modern jarred pasta sauce lacks the bright, fresh flavor of homemade tomato gravy. Red-eye gravy. Country ham was precious, saved for special occasions and holidays. But the drippings never went to waste, becoming red-eye gravy. After frying salt-cured ham, the skillet was deglazed with strong black coffee. The coffee lifted the browned bits while cutting the intense saltiness. No flour or thickening, just ham essence and coffee poured over grits, biscuits, or fried potatoes. The name came from the appearance of fat circles floating on the dark liquid, looking like eyes. This gravy provided energy for long days of physical labor. Mountain men drank it straight from the skillet as a morning tonic. The combination seems odd today, but made perfect sense when coffee and ham were both valuable. Some added a splash of water if the coffee was too strong. The best versions used ham aged at least a year. Restaurants now serve red-eye gravy as heritage cuisine at premium prices. Bulldog gravy. When there was no meat at all, mountain cooks made bulldog gravy from just flour, fat, and water. The name suggested it was fit only for dogs, but it filled human stomachs when needed. Flour was browned in a dry skillet first, giving it a nutty flavor. Then bacon grease, lard, or butter was added with water to create a thick gravy. Salt and pepper were the only seasonings. This gravy went over biscuits, cornbread, or potatoes, anything to make it seem like a meal. The technique required constant stirring to prevent lumps. Some families called it Perdue gravy or white-eye gravy. Children learned to make it as their first cooking lesson. During the Depression, this might be the only hot food available. The lack of milk meant it kept longer without refrigeration. Some modern cooks add bouillon for flavor, but traditional versions relied solely on the browned flour for taste. Which of these traditional foods do you remember from your childhood? Salt-rising bread. Before commercial yeast was available, mountain women made salt-rising bread using wild bacteria. The starter began with cornmeal, salt, sugar, and hot water, left overnight in a warm place. The mixture would foam and smell, slightly cheesy when ready. This starter was mixed with flour and more warm water to create a sponge, then finally worked into dough. The bread rose from bacterial fermentation rather than yeast, creating a dense, moist loaf with a distinctive tangy flavor. The process took 3 days and required constant warmth. Women would wrap the bowl in quilts or place it near the stove. Success depended on catching the right wild bacteria. One failed starter meant no bread that week. The finished loaves had incredible keeping quality, staying moist for over a week. Each family's bread tasted different based on their local bacteria. Modern bakers struggle to replicate authentic salt-rising bread because our sanitized kitchens lack the necessary microbes. Share your favorite memory of these mountain recipes in the comments below. Thanks for joining us on this trip down memory lane. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe.